What's up, everybody? I'm back. It's Thursday, September 25th, and I wanted to get into the Tank Davis, Jake Paul. This is one I've been actually trying to avoid because it's hard for me to take this fight serious. I'm not really a fan of Jake Paul. I like what Jake. I'll take that back. I don't like what he does, but I respect what he does in the lane that he does it in. You know, making his big fights, making his money off of retired, old, washed up MMA guys, fighting. Mike Tyson was an absolute sham. That fight should have never happened. Even as big as a fan of Mike Tyson that I am, the guy was 60. The Chavez Jr. fight, I can kind of see why they made it. He was a former world champion, but it's well documented. He's been having addiction issues, all kinds of problems. But at the very least, he was as big as Jake Paul, and if he would have actually trained, he could have beat Jake Paul. But it was clear as day that he was just there to get paid, just to get the bag and go. And then that didn't really work out because he got arrested by ICE like the next day, I believe. But if he was fighting another one of these fights, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, he's the biggest troll because he keeps saying that he wants to be a world champion. But if he really wanted to be a world champion, you should fight at least a ranked 15 guy at cruiserweight. You know, earn your way to a title. I mean, the guy, it's not that he's just a YouTuber anymore. I mean, he's been dedicating himself to the craft of the sport of boxing for a few years now. If I had to rate him, he's probably got the skills of, maybe like a 3, 4, 5, 6 rounder club fighter. Maybe. He doesn't do anything special. He's got a good 1-2, and he's got power. He doesn't have good footwork. He doesn't cut off the ring. He doesn't have great defense. He's not a good counter puncher. He just does a few basic things okay. You know, he's like a club fighter. He's coming up. If he was a regular guy who was never a YouTuber, I could be like, okay, the guy has some potential, but he needs a lot of work. So for him to be trolling like that he wants to be a world champion it's just, I don't let it affect me. I try not to let it affect me because I know that he's just playing this role of a troll. And he's going to make big amounts of money fighting old guys, washed up guys. And he's never going to call out an actual real cruiserweight that boxes who's actually trying to become a world champion. Okay, it is what it is, because he's shown that when he actually fought a real cruiserweight, Tommy Fury, who is a club level fighter, he's not good. He got beat. So I said all that to say this. I don't mind what Jake Paul does. He brings more eyeballs to the sport of boxing, the sweet science that we love. Casual fans, people that wouldn't ordinarily watch boxing, they watch it because of Jake Paul, because of his YouTube success. I never followed Jake Paul on YouTube. I didn't know him. My kids are the ones who knew him. I never knew him until maybe he was, I think until he knocked out Tyron Woodley, I still didn't know who the guy was. But he has his lane, and that's fine. I'm not against anybody making money any type of way, as long as you're not hurting anybody physically outside of the ring or a cage or something like that. But the reason that this fight, I avoided covering it, and the reason it just annoys me is because now he's going to fight Tank Davis, who is like a 135-pounder. So now he's fighting a guy he weighs 60 pounds more than, but he's taking Tank away from the fights that we want to see him fight. I understand why Tank's doing it because it's going to be a huge bag for him, but this just turns me off because now if Tank makes this money, he's probably just going to walk away because he's not going to make any more money against anyone else. But I wanted to see the Roach rematch. I thought Roach beat him. I thought that fight should have been called a stoppage after he turned his back and put his head outside of the ring. Any other fight, that fight gets stopped. At the very least, a point taken away. Should have been a 10-8 round, and that would have got Lamont Roach the fucking win. It was a draw. That would have made the win. At the very least, I thought it should have been called. He ran, turned his back, basically did a no mas. So Lamont Roach should have got that win. So I wanted to see the rematch. That's not going to happen. We have Shakur Stevenson, who that would be a great fight. You have Devin Haney, which I think would be a good fight. You've got possible Teofimo Lopez would be a good fight. A rematch with Ryan Garcia, people would watch that. Like, you have all these fights on the table. And the thing is, I don't think Tank is so good, and people want to like Tank Davis. I don't even think he's held a full-fledged title. I don't think so. He's been like a diamond champion or interim champion or whatever. I don't think he's ever held a full-fledged title. Because I think most of his fights were at catchweights. He either got a guy coming down, draining weight, or coming up. The Leo Santa Cruz, he came up. The Mario Barrios fight, he drained him down. And then he put the rehydration clause on Ryan Garcia. The Lamont Roach fight was the only fight he's had in recent history that was even ground, and it was a draw, and he should have lost. But you have all these potential fights for Tank that we're not going to see. And especially if this fight does go through with him and Jake Paul, and he makes a huge amount of money, why would he come back? Why would he take on those potentially dangerous fights for him? I mean, Tank has the eraser in his hand, just like Deontay Wilder did. He doesn't have to fight a perfect fight, and usually he's losing his fights until he's not, with that dynamite in his hand. So that's what makes him interesting. That's why people like him. And now I don't think we're ever going to see it. I don't think we're going to see it because he's going to make so much money on this. Why would he come back and take hard fights like that? Even at the damn press conference, I could only watch a few minutes of that press conference because Jake Paul just annoys me. His voice annoys me. His face annoys me. Everything about him, his shit talking annoys me. But Tank looked so unbothered, like he didn't even care. He's going to make a huge amount of money. Jake Paul will sell the fight with his corny ass shit talking. But he didn't even care that he was there. I don't even think it's a sanctioned fight. It's going to be an exhibition, so it doesn't matter, if he wins or loses. I believe the stipulations of the fight, it will have judges and the fight will be scored and a winner will be declared. But it doesn't count because it's an exhibition. So why? Why even go through with it except for the bag? And that's what's going to happen. It's all because of the bag. But then it's like, well, if he's going to make that much money, and if it's, God forbid, it's a close fight, and then they rematch, like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand financially you couldn't pass it up, but man, it's just, it hurts me because I don't think we're ever going to see the full potential of Tank Davis. We're not going to see the great fights that could be made because I think he's just going to walk away. And that sucks for boxing. As a boxing purist and people who love the sweet science, this is the downfall of Tank Davis because I don't think he's going to come back. And if he does come back, it'll be for another rematch maybe. Unless he gets embarrassed, unless Jake Paul stops him and gets embarrassed, then maybe I think that'll hurt his ego enough where he wants to come back and prove that he's the best or one of the best. And maybe we'll get those fights. But does anybody really want to see Jake Paul embarrass Tank Davis? Because then it looks bad. Yes, there's it's like a 60-pound difference. But still, does anybody really want to see Jake Paul strutting around the ring knowing that he beat another former champion? Or I don't even know if Tank is a full-fledged champion, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Jake Paul getting on the mic and saying how he just beat an all-time great and all this and all that, even though it's not true. But still, like I said, I can't even stand the guy talking. It just annoys me so much. And that's why it took so long to make this video, because I just hate that troll that he is. And I hate that he's taking one of the best fighters in this era away from boxing to do this clown shit. Like, I don't know. And it kind of annoys me. It really annoys me. You know, I wouldn't mind if he was fighting somebody else, you know, do another sideshow fight, you know, or somebody who's not in their prime. You know, I mentioned it earlier with the what's next for Canelo. Maybe Canelo's last fight on his deal with Riyadh season. Okay, go fight Jake Paul, because it makes sense at this point in his career to do something like that, you know. But a guy who's in his prime like Tank, to take him out of the mix to fight this type of fight, it's just like, man, I don't know. Just everything around it I don't like. And, you know, I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind what Jake Paul does on the side. He has his own lane, but now he's starting to creep into the real lane of boxing and taking away one of the great talents that we have who's in his prime. And now we're going to have to wait. And everybody knows in this fight game, the longer you wait and put off fights, the more shit that can happen and can go wrong. You know, he can either decide, oh, man, I made such a huge bag, I don't need to box no more. Or, you know, Lamont Roach gets hurt if they try to do a rematch and then it gets postponed indefinitely. Or, you know, something happens. It's like, it's just, man, there's so many questions, man. And it's such a small window of opportunity for fighters to make huge fights in their prime, like, and especially with Turkey in the game now, that he's one who's looking to make the big fights while guys are in their prime, and for him to step out and go take this clown fight with Jake Paul it's so annoying. It's such a beatdown. But even with all that being said, I hope Tank does something, at least makes Jake Paul look stupid in that fight. You know, something. I don't know. It just even bothers me talking about it. But it is part of the news. It is part of boxing, and I had to do my part to cover it. So that's my opinion on that, man. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know what you think in the comments, I guess, when it comes to this fight. Thanks for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. See you guys on the next one. Peace.